Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. As you can tell, I am still sick. This is the second video that I am recording today because yesterday I didn't have anything going on in the voice box area at all. Obviously, this is fading pretty fast, and by the end of it, I'm probably gonna sound like a pubescent boy or, I don't know, some woman named Flo that works at a Waffle House and smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day for like 40 years. We'll see how this goes, so forgive me. Anyways, we've got some interesting information in on gun ownership and the habits of the people who use them down a left-right paradigm from an unlikely source, and that is Men's Health magazine. The stats are pretty interesting, and I'm surprised that Men's Health even delved into this topic. I suspect that we're not hearing more about this from folks on the left yelling about, see, guns make people violent, because one, the results here don't fit the narrative they want to push, and two, they're busy with Mr. Luigi in the news right now, which is an interesting turn of events due to the so-called ghost gun. And that's a perfect example of the left being like, well, we like the violence when it's a target that we're against, even overcoming their hatred for homemade firearms. They're also conveniently overlooking the fact that dude's Twitter was pretty based, but that whole news item makes this survey even more timely and interesting. Anyway, Men's Health says that 2 in 5, or roughly half, of American men own a firearm, and they wanted to determine why. So, they surveyed a little over 1,200 of their gun-owning readers, and were surprised to learn the results weren't as black and white as they expected. Some of the results did fall in line with what I expected, but what I found particularly interesting was these stats of who among their readers admitted to using their guns for violence and to threaten someone into getting what they wanted. I should clarify, I'm not entirely surprised by the results themselves. I suppose maybe just that people admitted it and it was published. But before I dive into all of that, today's video is brought to you with the help of Blackout Coffee Company, the pro-Second Amendment coffee roaster that gets me through my day every day. They have amazing coffee, tea, and hot chocolate, support channels like mine, and even help support your Second Amendment rights through their partner roasts with GOA and FPC. So to get a cup of coffee or tea or hot chocolate that you can be proud of and a one-time 20% discount, use code LibertyDoll at blackoutcoffee.com/LibertyDoll. First, let's look at the more obvious stats that seem to be a given. Out of the men polled, those who own guns largely own them for protection. I know this, you know this, all the gun owners know this. No surprise there, makes sense. Now, the next key point was interesting, and one I was surprised to see actually spelled out in the results, that it's not these so-called gun nuts like you or me that people need to worry about. Men who own only one gun are far more likely to use it in anger, out of fear, or to threaten someone, even injuring them, than a man who owns 4 or more guns. That 4-gun versus 1-gun club is largely down party lines, as you might expect, with Dems more likely to only own 1 gun. In fact, almost half of the Democrats who responded to this as gun owners only owned 1 gun. By Men's Health's own words, the results also showed that Democrat gun owners are far more likely to engage in risky behavior with said firearms, with more Democrats reporting that they had fired their guns in anger, that they had used their gun to threaten someone, and that they had used it to get what they want. So violence. Democrats are more likely to own only 1 gun and to use that gun for violence. Not self-defense, violence. That is not an opinion that I am making. I am not blaspheming a political party. This is literally what their data is saying and Men's Health is reporting. Now, I know a lot of folks watching will say that you're not surprised by this, and I'm not really surprised either. Given things that we see in the media and on social media, as the party of tolerance has been no stranger to violence for the last 10 or so years. maybe even longer. But it's surprising to me to see this actually printed somewhere in numbers, even with the limitations of the survey method in terms of sociological and psychological experiments. This kind of method is considered on the lower tier because it is self-reporting. And I am surprised that some of these men were so confident, I guess we can say, in these behaviors that they self-reported them to a magazine. The results also found that 81% of men felt safer owning a gun across the board, regardless of party affiliation. Makes sense. Both were also against mass shootings, obviously, though interestingly enough, a greater number of Republicans than Democrats actually reported feeling upset and angered by mass acts of violence, 75% for Democrats and 79% for Republicans. It's a small discrepancy, and Men's Health covered this in a blanket 75% of both parties are upset statement, though it's interesting to see the higher numbers from the party that the left claims doesn't care. Now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the thing about surveys is it is the participants self-reporting their behavior. It could be that not all of these people were honest, especially when it came to using their firearms for bad things, but the results are interesting nonetheless, even among those who did answer honestly. I don't think that anyone answered lying, saying that, yeah, I use my gun for bad things. Because why would they lie about that and create a false positive? I'm sure it could happen, but not in a sample of this size. To Men's Health magazine. I'm even more surprised that Men's Health printed these results and came to the conclusions they did rather than try to hide those data points or not report on them at all. I'm obviously not a regular reader of the outlet to determine where their political bent is. Pretty sure the only other time I've ever even read anything from them was probably an article about Ryan Gosling, because I will read pretty much anything about Ryan Gosling. I'm a straight woman. But these days, it's pretty safe to say that most bits of media fall into a particular camp or will avoid certain controversial data points for obvious mainstream narrative reasons and getting canceled. Then reporting against those narratives gets you either buried or canceled, though I don't know if enough people really even read Men's Health to make that happen. But stranger things have occurred. Either way, we can absolutely expect not to see these data points printed anywhere else or any really big media outlet commenting on the fact that these data points were printed in the first place. That much I can be pretty confident in. It's just telling us what seems to be played out on the mainstream media and social media pretty regularly, but I guess it's nice to have the hard data set there. Anyways, that is it for this video. I am shocked and thrilled that I actually got through it. It's interesting parenting a toddler when you don't have much of a voice. But anyways, that is it for this video, guys. You know the drill for all of the algorithm things. Vote in the Gundies. You still have a few days. I thought it was all month, but I guess it's only to the 17th. Go check it out. I believe it's Creator of the Year, Top Influencer. I am not even sure because personally I have not been able to get the website to even work, but you guys are apparently handling it just fine, so go check it out, vote, and as always, thanks for tuning in, stay safe out there, and happy shooting.